good? Great. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tafisa Europe Final Conference here in Lisbon, Portugal today. Thank you for being with us. And today we will introduce to you the project, the European Action Project, the outcomes, why it is relevant for you, for your organizations, and for the European sports political platform. And to get started, I would first like to give some word of welcome. So I would like to invite to the stage the IPDJ chair, Vitor Pataco. Please, Vitor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gaetan. Just a few words for those who are here and for those who are online. I would like to welcome all to Lisbon, all the participants of this final conference of the project European Action. A special greetings for our friends of Tafisa in the persons of Jean-François. Thank you for coming. Jacqueline, Dennis Caracazes. Thank you for coming to Lisbon. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And also greetings to the other partners. A special word to Patrick, Malgozata, Doreen. Thank you for coming. Euro in Action is a project about grassroots and about the capacity building process for sport agents. And as we know, grassroots is the basis of all sport systems. And I think that's why we can consider it that this is a very important project, because the basis of all sport systems is the basis of sport. So thank you for developing this project to all the partners, and I wish you a very good journey of work, very continuous work in this project, and we hope that the outcomes are good for all of us, for all agents and for all the clubs and the sport agents that work on the communities to develop sport. So thank you again for coming to Lisbon, and have a good word during the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, for your warm welcome to the city of Lisbon and to the IPDJ building here today. And next, I would like to welcome to the stage Tafisa Secretary General Jean-François Laurent.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And on behalf of the Tafisa Board of Directors, but also the European Action Partners, I would like to welcome you all to today's conference, final conference of the European Action Project. My first words go to thank, of course, EPDJ and its chair, Vitor Pataco, and representatives Jorge Carvalho and Paolo Rocha for hosting us in their living room, so per se, for this conference. And I also would like to thank all of you in the room, but also online, for joining us for this closing event of European Action. When I was traveling yesterday, I read again the news, and while reading them on my smartphone, I couldn't help but think, what is the purpose of this conference in the world where we are living nowadays? Does Tafisa or does Sport for All really play a role when I read about war in Ukraine, about climate change and the drought that Europe has been facing over the summer, about soaring prices for energy and inflation, when I also read about COVID-19 continuing and social unrest? From my memory, since I live on this planet, I cannot think of more challenging times. And the quality of life as we have had it in Europe over the past decades is right now threatened like never before. But then I thought, what if those challenges are the very reason why Sport for All and what we are doing, what you are doing in your daily lives, at work or volunteering to create a better world, is the most important job that we are doing. Throughout the ages, humanity has always managed to showcase an extraordinary resilience to overcome those challenges that it is facing. and it's also especially the most terrifying prospects, with citizens helping each other, helping neighbors, families and friends, and committing acts of solidarity. And today, as society is more and more fragmented, we need more than ever to strengthen those drivers of hope, to strengthen common languages, and to strengthen community building. For some people, this is through music. For some others, it's through traditions and culture. For us, it is sport for all. And it is precisely what Tafisa and what the European Action Project are trying to achieve. By coming together, we're acting to create a better world through sport for all, to building communities, and we're also acting to create social link and sense where sometimes it has been lost. Tafisa, as the international organization leading the global sport for all movement, and Tafisa Europe, which is our European body, are working together with our members and partners to creating this better world and finding solutions. So today does not mark an end to the project, but a beginning, since we will be able, in the years to come, to implement the solutions that we have developed, and especially, we will hear later from my colleague Gaetan Garcia what are those solutions, but to build capacity of people. I would like to thank once again IPDJ for hosting us in this beautiful city of Lisbon. Lisbon is city of inspiration, city of innovation, city of new frontiers. I remember last year we celebrated the 500 years of Magellan trip around the world. And also we had the Tafisa World Sport for All Games. And I'm sure that not only today, but in the coming years, our strong partnership will continue. And I look forward to the next steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-François, for also introducing a little bit the theme of today. I think it's important that we already get in the mindset of what it is that we are trying to achieve with Europe in Action. And last, I would like to welcome now to the stage the co-chair of Tafisa Europe, Mr. Patrick Perosa.
Dear ladies, dear gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you on behalf of Tafisa Europe here today in Lisbon for the final conference of the Europe Sport Plus program, which was organized by several partners during the last 2 years. So the Europe in Action actually is a good job of partners that are also members of the steering committee of Tafisa Europe. So I'm really happy that we succeed, firstly, to create this project, and second, to come to the end, to this final conference, with really done great job. So today you will listen to few modules that were created, but on our website and further in all other communication, you can follow what has been done through these 2 years, and especially I'm sure that you will find it very useful in all your future activities. So please let's conclude also with the special thanks to our colleagues from Portuguese Institute of Sport and Youth for hosting here us today in Lisbon. And I wish you a successful conference and to enjoy all the themes that will be presented today. Thank you.
So, good morning to all. So, it's me that I have the role to introduce again and now Mr. Gaetan Garcia. He is the head of operations of the Tafisa and is going to give us the first main overview about the project outcomes. So, Gaetan, the floor is yours, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Paolo, for introducing me. Oops. There we go. Okay, I think this is working. Great. So thank you once again, and I will introduce to you the Europe in Action project and provide a broad overview of what it is that we are trying to achieve there. And I must thank also the three before me who gave words of welcome, because they already did half of the work in setting up the stage and explaining why we are doing this project. So currently in Europe, we know there's still a big physical inactivity crisis. The last Eurobarometer, which was released in September 2022, so it's very recent, has shown that physical inactivity in Europe has raised to 45% of people who are claiming that they are never doing playing or exercising physical activity and sport. So this means that we have a big crisis, and we know this has dire consequences on the health of people, on the rise of non-communicable diseases, but also we are aware that sports for all can be a great resource to help in a lot of areas, from social, physical, and mental health, well-being, but also a lot of other areas where we know that sport can contribute to building a better world. So this is why the Europe in Action project was started as a way to identify what policy already exists. I'm just checking currently. Okay, we got signal again. What policies are already existing at different levels in Europe, so at European level, regional level, national level, and sometimes even local level, trying to understand how these policies are put into practice, and trying to find where there are gaps, where we identify needs, where we need to also maybe sometimes develop new resources or train and educate people and leaders to better use sports for all at their own level to manage to close the gap between policy and practice. So this is why Europe in Action is called subtitled Translating Policy into Practical Action. So first, I can mention that Europe in Action is a project that is co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. And while TAFISA, the Association for International Sport for All, which I represent today, is leading the project, this would not be possible without the help of all of our partners who are here today with us. So this is the Association for Sport for All Serbia. We have Cyprus Sport Organization. We have the Greek Ministry of Culture and Sport. We have the Knowledge Center for Sport and Physical Activity Netherlands, the Ministry of Sports and Tourism of the Republic of Poland, Sports Union Slovenia, IPDJ, who is hosting us today in Portugal, and the Turkish Sport for All Federation. These are the partners in the consortium which is helping developing this project. And it's very important that we also selected them from different parts of Europe, because as we will see later, we also try to cater to the different situation in different countries and different regions of Europe, where we know that the situation is different between Western, Southern, Northern, Eastern, or Central Europe. And the concept was that Europe in Action is having this innovative and specialized approach to transfer fundamental and topical European key policy areas in the field of grassroots sports into priorities for practical action. The way this was carried out was to try to really identify all the policies that were existing, or at least as much as we could, identify policies that were existing, identify also good practices, understand what has worked and what sometimes has not worked in Europe, in all of the countries that were mapped, and then trying to find out how we can use this information and this knowledge to make sure that we empower the leaders in Sport for All to actually close the gaps and implement effective solutions to get their community more active and use sport as a resource. So we have this knowledge creation and experience sharing idea of creating a platform that allows us to really share the experiences between different countries, between different regions of Europe. We have then this Mission 2030 educational modules, which I will present later in my presentation today, which are basically some kind of training courses that are developed to offer some knowledge, but also educate and train leaders in Sport for All on how they can better cater to the needs of their communities through Sport for All activities. And then Sport for All events hosted in different regions of Europe to invite key stakeholders for networking, knowledge sharing, and presenting good practices. The target groups that have been identified by the partners are twofold. We have government stakeholders and non-governmental stakeholders, because we also understand that depending on the level of the people you are talking to, the responsibilities, the mandate they have, but also the resources and the access they have to implement some policies or some good practices are different. So we try to really understand all of the different stakeholders and actors who could be part of the solution and who could help us really promote physical activity and sport for all participation in Europe. And these stakeholders, they include people really at all levels, from policymakers and decision makers at European, national, and local levels, but also practitioners promoting grassroots sports in Europe through the organization and implementation of programs and events, lobbyists, advocates who are influencing policy at all levels. So it's really, we're trying to bring everyone together. We are not just looking at one specific target group, but on the contrary, we really believe that we need to work as a team and make sure that everyone at every level of the ladder is involved, because this is the only way we can really achieve success. The project outputs, I will mostly present the 4 in the middle, number 2, 3, 4, and 5, because they are the ones that are really providing resources to people who want to do something with sport for all, who want to change things and make sure that we don't have the next Eurobarometer showing 45% of people who are never doing physical activity. I hope we'll manage to make this number decrease. So the first one was to try to make a review of available resources at national, regional, and European levels. Basically, the idea was to create some kind of map that allows us to understand what is the current status. What is the current status now at all levels, but European level, national, and local level, of policy? What is the current status of implementation? To also try to understand why sometimes there is a gap between policy and implementation, and try to also understand what are the key focus areas. So when, with the partners, we endeavored to try to create this map of Europe, which we divided across the 5 regions, Western, Eastern, Southern, Northern, and Central Europe. We tried to also understand in the policy what were the themes that were identified, what were the ones that were somehow lacking, some themes where we find that sport for all can do something and that were not present in policy, so trying to understand why, and then trying to address this, seeing how we can better provide resources to make sure that these themes are also addressed and used at all levels. So to do this, we have created a survey that was spread across Europe, and with some questions about, for instance, the awareness of key policy papers. Because it's already interesting for us to understand when we talk about the people, the leaders of Sport for All, who are the ones in their country who are responsible for implementing Sport for All events, practices, etc., to understand already the awareness of what policies are existing. And we see that for a lot of documents that are known at the EU level or even at the global level. So this can be the Article for Action at the EU level or the World Health Organization Global Recommendations on Physical Activity for Health, for instance, among others. We see that only maybe 30% or 40% have read most of these, but at least more than half were at least aware that they were existing. So we feel quite optimistic that at least there is some general knowledge of what exists out there, but then we try to understand maybe when they've heard of it, why they haven't read it, or when they have not heard of it at all, what we can do to address this and change things. And then we asked respondents of the survey who was responsible for the implementation of Sport for All and physical activity policies. And here it's quite interesting that government obviously is at 90% because this is seen as the responsibility of the government to cater to the well-being of the citizens and to make Sport for All policies into practice, into action. But also national Olympic committees, in more than 55% of respondents, was identified as responsible for the implementation of sport for all and physical activity policies. So this means that national Olympic committees are not only responsible for going to the Olympics, getting medals, and taking care of elite sports, but also for providing sport for all opportunities for the population. And then we have national sports institutes, sports federation associations, schools, universities, local authorities, etc. But this chart also gives us an overview of who are the different stakeholders, who are the different people and organizations we can work with to get our strategy forward. And the organization answering the survey, we asked them how they contribute at their level to the implementation of national sport for all and physical activity policies. Because indeed, when you have a policy, we have to understand how they have this policy and how they use this policy to implement it at their level, how they make sure that this policy goes beyond just words on a paper, but actually gets translated into practice, since that's really what we want to understand and what we want to change. And we saw educational programs was a recurring theme, so that's one way they managed to translate policy into action. Collaboration with key stakeholders, National Olympic committees, ministries, local authorities, advocacy, organization of events, and communication as well. So with our survey, we tried to identify what were the key themes that were both found in policy, but then also identified in good practices in implementation, and try to also understand why sometimes there's a gap. So here, for instance, we have Western Europe, where all 7 countries that are identified as this group of Western Europe have active cities mentioned as one policy in grassroots sports. So active cities and health and well-being as well were both themes were represented in all 7 countries in grassroots sport policy documents. But now when we look at the deliverables in Western Europe, we see that we didn't identify deliverables in active cities. We know there are some, but this was an interesting gap that we found between what is in policies and what we find in practice. And we are like, okay, now we have to try to find a way to bridge the gap and bring these things together. And the idea when we are doing this work is to make a sort of analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of different countries, but also different regions in Europe, trying to find out which regions maybe are stronger in certain themes, and to see why they are stronger, what are their successes, and how we can try to share and learn from these successes to replicate them in the regions that need them most. So this was the idea behind trying to understand the current situation and status between policy and practice, and trying to gather as much information as we could on what was working, what was not working, and how we address this. So we have all these results that for each of the regions, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, which concerns Portugal, where we are here today, the Balkans and Turkey, and all of this information helped us to really develop and focus our strategy on how we can better translate policy into practical action. So based on all this geographical region, we are producing now regional reports that are providing the whole overview of all the research that has been done. So the analysis of the needs for each region with planning, implementing, and monitoring grassroots sport policy deliverables, an understanding of the strengths, weaknesses, gaps, and limitations in each region, the collection of regional good practices, and regional recommendations for the promotion of grassroots sports according to the identified needs and priorities. So our thinking there was that we really have to make sure that we don't develop a one-size-fits-all solution, because we know it does not work. We know that what works in one place might not be applicable in another place. So this is why we are really trying to have these regional hubs to understand better what are the special needs and the specific needs in each region and each areas, and how we can try to learn from each other, because maybe some region is better than another in a specific area. From our research, what we can say is that there is no one region that is far above the rest and that can just teach everyone else. That's not how it works, and we are aware of this. So it's really about, on the contrary, trying to facilitate exchange and learning from each other. And the report will be published online, so all of these resources that I'm mentioning right now and that are being developed, they will be all available for free online on the official website. We have already built, based on this research, a good practices database that is looking at good practices in each of the country. And this is meant to be a directory that can inspire people. So the idea is that you can see what is already existing if you are working, let's say, in a sport for all organization at a local level, maybe in a region of your country, and you're like, okay, we have a problem here with social inclusion because we have specific situation and circumstances. We want to find out how we can utilize sport for all as a tool to facilitate social inclusion. Then through the good practices database, you can find some resources, you can find some examples, and maybe you cannot use the example as it is because it was developed for a specific country, but you can still learn and see what is applicable. You're like, okay, I like this idea, I can take this. Okay, this one does not work for me. I can leave it on the side, but maybe I'm also curious to know because this looks like a great idea, and we had this idea as well in our team already, but we were wondering how we can possibly implement it. So the idea is that we show what exists, we can try to inspire people, and then they might also try to get in touch with us and say, okay, we want to learn more about this. Can you teach us? Can we exchange knowledge? Can we share good practices? Because we want to know how, in practice, you managed to implement this program, how it worked for you, what were the successes, and also what were the failures, where you learned, because maybe then we can avoid making the same failures. So it's really about trying to have this mindset of sharing and exchanging with each other, because we know that a lot of things are already existing out there. We know that a lot of things are already put into practice. There are some very successful and great programs, and it's something when we go to meetings, when we talk with people, that we are always noticing that a lot of great things are happening, but then it's very difficult sometimes to find the information, to access it, or to learn more about it. So we're trying to be this platform that can help people connect and share this very important information. And based on this mapping, trying to understand the current environment in Europe of sport policy, grassroots sport policy, and then sport for all practices and implementation, identifying in each region the different gaps, the needs, but also the strengths. We try to identify how we could develop resources that would help make things better. And these resources are educational modules. So these educational modules are based on the 12 themes of TAFISA Mission 2030 for a better world through sport for all. And to give a bit of context there, TAFISA Mission 2030 was developed as a resource to identify where sport for all can actually be a tool to answer current global challenges. This means we are moving beyond just sport for health and sport because it's great and makes you feel better, but really trying to identify all the themes where we feel that sport for all has something to say, for instance, in terms of environmental sustainability, in terms of gender equity, in terms of promoting peace and development, in terms of course, promoting health and well-being, in terms of play and physical literacy, etc. So we try to understand how sport for all could bring their own answer to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And based on these themes, we have created educational modules where we have full-on modules that go in depth into each of these themes and shows how, through sport for all, for instance, we can better promote gender equity. So these educational modules have been designed to fill the gap that exists, that has been identified by the research. To educate sports leaders, it's not just educating, it's also empowering them to take ownership, to take responsibility, and to be feeling responsible that they can do something when they see a problem. To support local, national, international sport organizations in the implementation of programs and events. To promote health-enhancing physical activity and sport for all throughout Europe. And to assist with the implementation of the 2013 Council recommendation on promoting health-enhancing physical activity across sectors. This is the list of all the educational modules based on the 12 existing themes of TAFISA Mission 2030. And we have an extra theme on digitalization and innovation because we've seen this as a rising trend where we needed also to address what it meant. This is also connected, of course, to the 2.5 past years of COVID pandemic that we've gone through, where digitalization has been accelerated. And now we are trying to find out also how this can tie in with Sport for All and how we can connect the dots and make sure that Sport for All benefits from digitalization and can also innovate to achieve better results. So these educational modules, we have created these courses and these master presentations. But what is important as well is that the way we envision the delivery of each of these modules, this is not something that we do ad hoc, because if it was just, okay, we have these modules, they are perfect as they are, we could just create a video, put it on YouTube, and then people can just use this. But we know this does not work out, because what is important is always to connect with the local needs of whomever is the recipient of these modules. So they were designed in a way that they can be adapted to the needs of the host organization. For instance, if IPDJ is saying, okay, we want to have a special session to further develop active cities and see how we can connect with what we are already doing, with the resources we have, our knowledge and experience, and better promote active cities. And then if we deliver this educational module, we will work together with IPDJ because they also know better, they are the experts on the situation in Portugal, they know better what their needs are, and we need to make sure that what we do makes sense, that it can be practical and efficient, and not just some nice words that look great on paper, but that are not translatable to the local specific situation of an organization. So this was how these educational modules were designed, and they will be presented more in depth later today. But I can already show you an overview of what they look like, where we really have different data on different aspects of each of the themes, and trying to understand how sport for all can be utilized in this context. We have already carried out, as part of the project, 3 piloting of these educational modules. That was on the modules of active cities, play and physical literacy, and gender equity, which allowed us to also already gather feedback from participants and understand how we can refine the modules to really make it work. We really wanted to have something that has impact. For us, it was important that we don't just develop something that looks nice, but then we are missing the impact. So it was important that we had these piloting sessions to better understand how they work in practice, how they can be implemented, and to learn from that. So we had some interesting takeaways and feedback from participants on each of the modules. And it also allowed us to better understand what are the key issues, because sometimes you develop a module thinking that some of the most important points are A or B, but then when you talk with the participants, you realize that C and D are actually issues that we did not consider when we created the module. So it's important that we constantly have this feedback loop where we are staying informed of the needs of participants, and each of the modules that will be delivered also in the future will be assorted with an associated evaluation and assessment framework, which will allow us to constantly improve the contents and the delivery of these modules. We are introducing all of these modules on your online capacity building platform, and you can visit the website already, which is still under development, but contains some modules as it is at the moment. It's mission2030capacitybuilding.com. And this introduces the project and provides access to the database of good practices and project outputs, and also has an overview of each of the modules that introduces what the modules are about, what are the key contents that are delivered, and what are potential sub-themes that could be tackled if you wish in your organization or community to have one of the modules delivered. So this is just showing a little bit the overview of the website. So in short, Europe in Action is a quite ambitious project where we really try to have a comprehensive approach going from the top, from the policy that is existing, based on the needs that have been identified in sport for all and physical activity, and looking at where the gap is between policy and practice. And based on this research, trying to identify what we can do to bridge that gap, what we can do to also capture all the good things that are happening all over Europe, and bring people together to work together, because different organizations at different levels are not always aware. Sometimes they're not even aware of the existence of each other. So it's also about trying to create this platform that brings different stakeholders together, because this is the only way we believe we can make a difference. Thank you. If you have any questions, the floor is open. We have some microphones around, but I think we don't have any questions at this stage. And you can always send us an email through info@tafisa.org, or also on the project website you will see some emails that you can contact if you want to learn more about the project, or if you want maybe to participate, to share some good practices of yours, or to host an educational module. Thank you very much. Now for the next part, I would like to introduce some people who will come on the stage and who will further present the educational modules and give some examples more in depth of what they consist in. And, oops. Sorry, just a mix-up here. Yeah.
Can you help us?
Yes.
And Christina, she will use the mic.
Okay, we can.
Portuguese.
All right. Wait, sorry. So I would like to introduce first Cristina Almeida, who is a sociologist, and she will present the gender equity educational module.
We must help her.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. Gaetan? Sorry. Maybe it... Oh.
Yeah, I think the cable is a little bit dodgy.
Okay.
So as soon as you move it a little bit, you lose the signal.
Okay. Okay.
No, it's not stable.
So, good morning to all of you. Welcome to Lisbon. And also to everybody that is with us online. I hope you have a good session. First, I would like to congratulate the FISA and all the partners from the European Action Project. And thank you so much for this invitation to be here It is an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to be here on your final event and to speak about this issue, gender equity. And here I will not present the models because I was not really involved in the conceptualization of all and production of the models, but I will try to do some thoughts about gender equity, especially focusing on understanding these concepts, gender and equity, and then remember some facts, some history facts around women in sport. It's always good to remember. And also to get to know some state of play, how we are today. And finally, try to reflect on why is it important to have gender equity in sport. So to start, let's try to understand these two concepts, gender and equity, so that we are on the same page and that we speak the same language, that it is important. So regarding gender, it is important that we know and note that it is a social construct, refer to the norms, to the behaviors, to the roles associated with being a woman or a man, as well the relationships with each other that, you know, differs from society to other society and differs on time. So this is important to notice. However, this concept of gender has evolved and today goes far beyond this binary world to which we were shaped by common sense. And gender now is not a binary, is a fluid concept and have these four components here represented by this gender-bred person that is very common to see, to explain it. And in this gender-bred person, we have four dimensions: the biological sex, the gender identity, the gender expression, and the sexual orientation. Sometimes when we hear this word gender, we used to think about something, but this concept is really a complex concept. So it is important that we know what are we speaking about. And in this presentation, I will focus on the dimension of the balanced participation between women and men in sport. That is my point here. Oh. No. No. Okay. Regarding equity, it is the other concept that we are getting to know here. It is also important to note that it's different from equality. Equality means each individual has the same resources and opportunities. When we refer to equity, it recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. So when we speak about positive actions, we are speaking about equity, which means that not everybody needs the same things to get the final outcome. And that is what is represented in this figure. But let us return, however, to this picture to tell you the story of this woman who ends up representing a little of history of women in sport. Maybe you know this very well, this history. She is a German girl. Her name is Catherine. In this photo, she is 70 years old. And the photo was taken at the Boston Marathon finish line in 2017. But she became known when she was 20 years old, 50 years earlier, in 1967, when Catherine signed up for this same marathon, a competition that was forbidden for women in 1967, using her initial names, the initial of her names. So 1967 was not so long ago. I was born in 1967, by the way. So this should make us think on how, until very recently, women did not yet have the right to participate in sports as they do today. And they fought for their rights. And this is a struggle that always continues, because sport is a very different reality, and not in all sports we have managed to go behind this different set for men and women. So it is important to remember that for a long time the marathon was a competition forbidden to women because there was some myths that is very important to format our thought. The myth of the fragility of women and their physiological failure in the face of great efforts, and the myth that physical exercise weakened the reproductive function of women. And these were two myths, very strong myths, that influenced the participation of women in every sport. So only in 1984, women ran the marathon for the first time at the Olympic Games, 88 years after men, with the delight we had of our athlete, Rosa Mata, winning for the first time an Olympic medal. In Paris 24, we expect for the first time in history to have a parity in terms of number of athletes, after 128 years. So it is undeniable that there has been progress, although we can recognize slow and fragmented. However, the most important is to be aware and know where we are, what is our reality. So what is the state of play today? Let us look to some indicators. And in this graphic, we have the data from the recent Eurobarometer on sport and physical exercise. In the total of European population, only 38% refer to exercise and play sport regularly or with some regularity. In Portugal, this percentage is only 22%, being the most sedentary country in Europe. So it is really important that we have conscious of this fact. We have a lot to do. And if we observe women population, we found that the situation is even worse. Only 35% of women refer to exercise or play sport. In Portugal, the percentage is 20%. If we observe the other indicator, only 46% of women refer to engage regularly or with some regularity in physical activity outside the sport. In Portugal, this number is dramatic, only 13%. And when we look at leadership of sport, data became really worrying. Here, data is from the project All In, a joint project from the European Union and Council of Europe. In terms of board of members of NOCs and national federations, women were only 22% in 2019. As presidents of NOCs, only 19% were women. And as presidents of national federation, only 7% were women. These were data collected from 18 European countries in 2019. Moving to another dimension of leadership, the ones on the field, data is again worrying. As sport coaches, we have only 20% of women. In Portugal, 15%. As referees and judges, and this data is only from Portugal, we don't have an European data to referees and judges. Women represent about 1/4 of the referees judge registered in federations. But we may wonder, what is the point of equity between men and women in sport? Why is it important? Well, in first place, it matters because it has a positive impact on society as a whole. We should not forget that women represent more than half of the society. It has an impact on public health and social development. Sport provides girls, boys, women, and men with an environment that conducts to education and social development of individuals and contributes to fostering good health and well-being in society. It is important that this reach every population. But it has also an impact on education. Sport allows girls and boys to develop the essential values for life in a democratic society, such as fair play, respect for others, respect for rules, team spirit, tolerance, and responsibility, which contributes to turning them into responsible citizens. It also has a very positive impact on the image. Sorry, I was lost here. It also has a positive impact on social inclusion, and this is a very important issue. Sport can promote the social integration of girls, boys, women, and men from disadvantaged groups exposed to multiple discriminations, and can contribute toward better understanding among communities. Sport is, on the other hand, a powerful means for influencing society, as it is highly visible and one of the most powerful social institutions. Sport can therefore promote gender equity and as well as empower women and girls. So it is kind of a circle. Sport is important for society, but society benefits also very much with sport. However, most importantly, it has a significant impact on sport organizations. In its economic growth, as women represent more than half of the European population, including them, better offers an organization an expansion of its market and potentially more membership. Also, in their positive image, gender equity is generally associated with progressive organizations responsive to social change, which may improve the image of organization in the eyes of the government, members, spectators, media, potential sponsor, and the general public. It also influences performance. Diversity within teams and organizations bring together various perspectives, produces a more multifaceted analysis of issues at stake, and triggers great effort from all that leads certainly to improve decisions and performance of the organization. Finally, it has an impact on the potential of available human resources. In the context where sports organizations often face difficulty in recruiting coaches, attracting volunteers, finding decision makers, investing in women can lead to more women resources available. So, if it is difficult, and when we are involved in grassroots sport, we know very much how difficult is it to find people for the board of the clubs and the federations. If it is difficult to find coaches, referees, judges, volunteers, if we need and want to increase the number of sport participants, if we want to increase our funding and the visibility of sport in society, why not start investing in women and girls? They are more than 200 million in Europe. In Portugal, 5 million. More than 5 million are women. The recruitment base is huge. So let's us change our chip and look at this important population for sport. And in order to inspire you, I will end my presentation with a video from the UN Human that tell you why sport is important for empowerment of women and girls. Let me see. No. Yes. Oh. Yeah, but I have here a screen that doesn't move.
If we can do something. Oh.
This. I don't know why.
Yeah, I see this mail Wi-Fi. Yeah, but it's, you don't have internet connection. That's a problem.
Okay. So you can.
No, but
Yes, but
it's
no.
not enough because there's no internet connection.
So-
She's not connected to the internet right now. That's why it's not working. And
But I am.
yeah. No, but you have to have this. Okay. Okay. No, it might work. Yes.
muito obrigada. Thank you so much, and we'll see you then.
Thank you, Christina, for this presentation on gender equity. And now I suggest that we take a short break before we resume with the next part of this morning session. Thank you.
Tá. Ah, ok. Opa, estou muito satisfeito com o som no geral. Houve ali uns piquezinhos, pronto. E mais incrível, com a Cristina, que fala muito calma e até baixinho. Yeah. Temos de ter sempre. Opa. Eu só não estou a curtir. Eu fiz aquele balanço de brancos. Está bem para quem está aqui, mas deturpa-me o branco, este branco do slide. Fica meio amarelado na imagem, sabes? Isto. É assim uma coisa estranha, mas olha. Pois não. Olha aí, eu ligo. É só ativar o. É só ativar.
Mas as pessoas não disseram nada, depois creio que ficou com frio.
Não, mas liga só agora no intervalo, estás a perceber?
Então liga aí.
Quando entrar, é aqueles.
São aqueles 3 e o de cima.
3 e o de cima, ok. É pôr no automático, não é?
Sim. Ninguém vai se sentar aqui agora.
Onde?
Se sentar aqui, eu não sei.
Eu penso que é neste modelo de novo. Não sei.
Agora fica usando o púlpito, não ninguém se for.
Olha, vê lá aí em termos de imagem se vale a pena ou não pormos isto. Na verdade não era para aqui eu queria, mas... Vê lá. Põe... No roll-up? Pois. Opa, tens aqui, mas também não está apontado para lá. Não tens nenhum robô na fila 1. Só se tirares este, olha. Este aqui não está a fazer nada em termos de púlpito. Tens este roll-up aqui, até me esconde um bocadinho isto, pá. Não tens uma cartolina preta ou qualquer coisa? Pá, isto aqui é... Aquela câmera lá em cima aponta para aquele filme. Olha, mas aqui em termos de luz, que dizes? Eu tirava aquele robô para trás. Se conseguires, não sei qual é, pá. É este aqui que está na primeira, segunda, na terceira vara. Esse mesmo.
Sim, o que é que achas?
Pá, eu fechava. Isso. Se calhar nem tanto. Vai. Consegues fechar-lhe o... Assim, talvez. Vê lá em termos de imagem e no coisa, se faz favor. Para. Tá-me. Não fica centrada como?
É que o que apanhar o roll-up é na câmara 3.
Ok.
E o roll-up vai cortar um bocadinho.
Está bem.
Até ficar assim.
Está bem. Mas opá, também se ficar com uma sombrinha também não é... Aqui. Tá. Mas isto é a cortina, estás a ver, David?
Sim.
Ela estava assim.
Sim, tira a cortina.
Passa-se isto para trás. Estou a curtir isto. Estava mais fechado que essa. Vê lá.
Pois era isso, está a cortar um bocadinho assim.
Em cima. Mas isto também sou eu. Pois. Imagina, a Cristina é desta altura. Eu não vou deixar ar assim, não é? Passa, não? Então, alguém quer lá ir à câmara? Se não perca a referência. Presumo que seja aquela. Porque aquela do púlpito não apanha. Aquela está só para o púlpito, acho eu, para ali. A malta parou a transmissão ou não? Pois, não sei.
O que é que acha aqui? Welcome back, everyone. We are now ready to follow up. Okay. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for staying with us. We are now following up with the presentation of the educational modules. And to present the module on play and physical literacy, it is my pleasure to call to the stage Mojca Markovic from the Sports Union Slovenia. Mojca, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I will present the educational model Play and Physical Literacy developed by the partners in the project Europe in Action. Play and Physical Literacy is one of the themes of the TAFISA Mission 2030. It's all about creating a world that recognizes the value of play at all ages. This educational model consists of 6 chapters. Each chapter includes the theoretical content and is followed by the interactive group activities where all the participants discuss the presented topic. We have piloted this educational model in Portorož in Slovenia. The event was organized in the hybrid format, and we had 33 participants on site. The theoretical presentation of the topic was followed by the interactive group activities. We have divided participants into small groups in order to give everyone a chance to contribute to the discussion. And afterwards, each group presented the keynotes of their debate. And we witnessed very interesting and fruitful debates. They were full of ideas and good practice examples, as well as pointing out the challenges that occur in the practice. We have invited experts on physical literacy to share their work and their perspective on the topic. And in the afternoon sessions, we presented the best examples during our practical workshops. Let me present the key slides of the educational model. Globally, low physical activity levels are a cause for critical concern. Insufficient physical activity is a leading risk factor for non-communicable diseases and has a negative effect on mental health and quality of life. Inactivity is an issue all over the world. There are many reasons for that. For example, urbanization, standards of living, fear of safety, technology, and transport options have reduced children's free roaming and play. In the last 4 generations, as we can see on this map, what has happened. In the mid-1920s, an 8-year-old boy walked everywhere. His parents didn't have the car, he didn't own a bike, and he walked every day for 10 kilometers to his favorite spot, fishing and hunting and playing in the woods. His home was tiny and crowded, so he spent most of the time outside playing all kinds of games. Now, 100 years later, an 80-year-old boy enjoys none of that freedom. He is driven to school, which is just a few minutes away. He's taken by car to the safe place to ride a bike or to participate in physical activities, and he cannot roam no more than a couple of 100 meters away from the home. And this continues to decline. The research numbers are alarming. More than 80% of the adolescent population is not sufficiently physically active. The data also highlight that women are less active than men in most countries. As countries develop economically, levels of inactivity increase. In most countries, vulnerable groups and girls have fewer opportunities to access safe, affordable, and appropriate programs and places in which they can be physically active. Physical activity levels are also influenced by cultural values. Parents from some ethnic backgrounds places a higher value on academic and cultural education than physical activity, which results in a little time for the physical activity. Globally, 1 in 4 adults do not meet the global recommendation levels of physical activity. So the question is, have things improved by adulthood, or perhaps the expectations just lowered? I believe it's the second one. In Europe, 6 out of 10 people never or seldom exercise or play sports, and more than half never or seldom engage in other kinds of physical activity like cycling, dancing, or gardening. Physical inactivity is one of the leading risk factors for health and is estimated to attribute to 1 million deaths per year in the European region alone. And it is also, the physical inactivity is also associated with considerable economic burden. For example, for a population of 10 million people, where half the population is insufficiently active, the overall healthcare cost is estimated to be over 900 million euros per year. World Health Organization has prepared recommendations, and they recommend that children should undertake at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity every day. But the recommendation lowers for adults. It is the minimum of 150 minutes per week. Play. What is it and why is it important? There are many different definitions of play. All recognize its critical importance in child learning and development. It is through play that children learn about their world, themselves, and the people around them. One of the most enduring definitions is the one from Susan Isaacs. Play encompasses children's behavior, which is freely chosen, personally directed, and intrinsically motivated. It is performed for no external goal or reward and is fundamental and integral part of healthy development. So what are the benefits of play? Play improves the cognitive, physical, social, and emotional well-being of children and young people. They also learn skills they need for study, work, and a relationship, such as confidence, self-esteem, resilience, social inclusion, social skills, interaction, independence, and coping with challenging situations. It is through the many forms of play that we build physical literacy, learn to be creative and independent, develop physical and emotional strength, and identify with our cultural heritage and explore our built and natural environment. Policies at the global, European, and national level provide us with an evidence-based framework to argue for and create sustainable change in physical activity levels. To present the most important global frameworks, the 4 objectives of the World Health Organization Global Action Plan are: create an active society through social norms and attitudes, create active environments through spaces and places, create active people through programs and opportunities, and create active systems through governance and policy enablers. In the UN Convention, the states parties recognize the right of the child to rest and leisure, to engage in play and recreational activities appropriate to the age of the child, and to participate freely in cultural life and arts. Also, in the TAFISA Mission 2030, play and physical literacy is highlighted as one of 13 critical areas of focus. The Healthy Lifestyle for All is the European Commission's 2-year campaign that aims to link sport and active lifestyles with health, food, and other policies. It was published last year, and you are all invited to pledge your program into it. The physical activity strategy focuses on physical activity as a leading factor in health and well-being in the European region, with particular attention to the burden of non-communicable diseases associated with insufficient activity levels and sedentary behavior. It aims to cover all forms of physical activity throughout the life course. One of the guiding objectives of the EU Work Plan for Sport is to increase participation in sport and health-enhancing physical activity in order to promote an active and environment-friendly lifestyle, social cohesion, and active citizenship. A focus on the promotion of participation in sport and health-enhancing physical activity is one of the 3 priorities of the plan. The European Sports Charter provides guidance for the Council of Europe's member states to perfect existing legislations or other policies and to develop a comprehensive framework for sport. We are happy to announce that last year it was updated, and now the term physical literacy is included in the document several times. There are some European initiatives that are trying to reach the fact that physical literacy would become the 9th key competence for lifelong learning. So what is physical literacy? Physical literacy is a term that has increasingly gained popularity in recent years and is a subject of numerous scientific papers. However, various definitions are often used to describe it. The pioneer of physical literacy is Miss Margaret Whitehead, who presented the concept in her doctoral thesis a few decades ago. She is still the most recognized expert from IPLAM. Here is the definition of physical literacy that is provided by IPLAM. Physical literacy can be described as the motivation, confidence, physical competence, knowledge and understanding to value and take responsibility for engagement in physical activities for life. This organization has a little bit more philosophical approach to describing physical literacy. While Sport England established physical literacy framework, which is more practical, the framework has been designed to support those working in primary schools to consider how best they can structure their physical education lessons to ensure maximum opportunity is provided to develop the physical literacy of all their pupils. The first 5 years are a critically important time in children's mental, physical, and social development, and the primary way young children learn is through play. Play allows children to explore, repeat skill-building activities, build confidence, take control, and expand their horizons, and it is essential for developing physical literacy. The Apple model provides the freedom to let the children learn through their play about who they are, what they want, and what they need. Sport Australia is one of the top organizations working on physical literacy. They have prepared the following definition. Physical literacy involves holistic lifelong learning through movement and physical activity. It delivers physical, psychological, social, and cognitive health and well-being benefits. This model is closer to people working in practice, because while physical literacy is still a subject of a lot of research and scientific papers, it is relatively unknown in the practice. When we ask trainers, coaches, and physical education teachers what they understand under physical literacy, they still confuse it to motor skills development. But physical literacy is more than just motor skills development. Physical literacy gives you physical skills and fitness, the attitudes and emotions that motivate you to be active, the knowledge and understanding of how, why, and when you move, and the social skills to be active with others. So physical literacy actually combines 4 interrelated domains. The Sport Australia physical literacy model divided the 4 domains into elements. And you can understand it like a puzzle, so each person builds its puzzles into one picture, so builds the elements of the 4 domains into his or her physical literacy. Not all the elements are listed here. For example, the physical domain also includes stability and balance, flexibility, agility, strength, cardiovascular endurance, muscular endurance, and strength. And the psychological domain also includes self-perception and self-regulation. It means the emotional and physical self-regulation, meaning that you can deal with what happens in sport court. You can react appropriately to referee's decision or to something you think it's not fair. And it also means you have your body under control, so you know how to react. If you are too tired, you know when to take the break. In the social domains, these are all the elements, but in the cognitive, it's also included strategy and planning, tactics and perceptual awareness. In the cognitive domain, it is also included that a person knows which physical activity and which sport to choose for himself, and also when and where to perform it. So we don't go in the mountains hiking when there is big rain and low temperature. Sport Australia defines 5 stages of development of physical literacy. At the first stage, person is experiencing, playing, or exploring limited forms of movement. At the second stage, a person is learning and exploring their capability for movement. At the third stage, a person is frequently practicing and refining their capabilities for movement. At the fourth stage, a person is able to perform and analyze their capabilities for movement. And at the last stage, a person transfers their capabilities for movement to new and different situations, so you can easily learn a new sport. So to understand what is physical literacy, we have to remember that it is a lifelong process. It is a lifelong learning. It is unique to every individual. Everyone has its own path. We all have different predispositions, different abilities, life circumstances, and limitations. And we do not compete and compare to others because it is our own path. It changes with age. It's not a linear process. We are not expected that when we reach 80 years, we will be in highest physical fitness level and able to deliver a number of sport activities. And it's a holistic approach. So it is addressing all 4 physical literacy domains. So what a physical literate person looks like. A physically literate person is physically active and knows how to stay active throughout life. Is physically fit and knows how to plan the physical activities. Is confident and motivated to be physically active. Is responsible and takes care of the safety during physical activities. Values physical activity for health, enjoyment, and it uses it as a challenge and social interaction. Also knows and understands the principles, the tactics, and the strategies in different physical activities. And has the skills and knows how to build the skills and know how to transfer the skills into other sports. The importance of being physically literate is just as profound as being literate in reading, language, and numeracy. Cross-sectoral cooperation is crucial for further development of play and physical literacy. Quality physical education and supportive school environments can provide physical literacy for long-lasting, healthy, and active lifestyles. The Sport for All sector is viewed as a priority area for increasing rates of physical activity and the development of physical literacy. Local communities are another key stakeholder to reach this goal, including providing appropriate sport infrastructure and programs and initiatives. And of course, policy, strategies, and appropriate funding opportunities are the base for the implementation. It is crucial to educate the staff that is working in this field. So non-formal education is one of the key formats of education to further educate sport staff and PE teachers about the new strategies, the new concept, and the new ways of training and physical activity. And it's also very important that we raise awareness about the importance of physical literacy in different target groups. like the general public, the decision makers, and of course the practitioners like sports staff, teachers, and also in other sectors, including the health sector. So working in sport for all, keep in mind to provide opportunities, to be inclusive, to address the inequities, to share, collaborate, and learn, to mobilize allies, and to lead by example. And personally, I would add, raise awareness about the impact and importance of physical literacy. Thank you for your attention.
For this presentation. And now I would like to call to the stage, she's already here, Doreen Dijk, who will present the Active Cities educational module on behalf of Knowledge Center for Sport and Physical Activity Netherlands.
Thank you. So welcome everyone. I'm happy to do my presentation for all of you, the people who are sitting in the room, but also the people who are active online. So I'm very happy that you are there as well. And I'm going to talk about active cities, the educational model, active cities. And I'm going to try to show how we tried in the Netherlands to make a Dutch story out of the education module. So it is about how active cities are in the Netherlands, what it means for me, but also how you could work with the educational modules yourself when you like to use it from the Tavisa and the Europe in Action website. So just to start with myself, I'm from the city of Amsterdam, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm really proud of Amsterdam to be an active city as well. And I would like to show you some pictures where I think they did a really nice job. So on the left, on the top, you see the ice skating, the artificial ice skating possibility, which is created during winter time at the museum square. So it's a really nice opportunity for people to get, well, to get to know the ice skating, the very traditional sports of the Netherlands. Besides of this picture, you see the cycling tradition of the Netherlands, and Amsterdam really likes to create wide bicycle lanes, so that the bicycle is important and the car is less important. And then you see the museum with a boxing pole in the middle. It's just like the combination of culture, like a beautiful place where there was also activities organized. And this is this was especially what you saw during COVID time. Really creative ideas of people themselves combining the city with activities, because it was not possible to do it in the sports school or in the sports club. Then left at the bottom, you see this is a deprived area in the southeast of Amsterdam. You see that the organized sports are not very popular over there, because people from different cultures or different backgrounds don't feel connected to the traditional organized sports clubs. So they are going to organize their own informal way of activities. And this is one of the boot camps they do outside. They do it regularly, but they do like to do it in a different way than organized sports is organized in a traditional way. And then on the right, on the bottom, you see just a very new urban sports skating park, which is really popular. Of course, in urban sport, they don't need coaches, they don't need instructors, but this is a place which was there since about 3 years now, and it's really popular. So what does sports and physical activity or an active city mean to me? Well, for me, I'm a tennis player, so I like to play tennis, and I have a lot of opportunities in my own city to do this. So this is my tennis club. I think sports, I cannot do it without being with friends. So for someone of my age, the coziness, being with friends together is one of the most important things. So you see me playing tennis with my friends. And then padel tennis is growing as well. So I like that as well. There's a picture of it. I like the green parts. The green parts of the city are very important for me as well. So I go during lunch walking, and I'm looking for the green parts within the city. And then the cycling. For me, it's also just a way to get around. Then my family. I have a son, Johan, and Johan is 16 years old. And he loves sports. Fortunately, he is really fond of sports. What does an active city mean for a boy of 16 years old, of my son? For him, it means going on his bicycle to school every day and also to see his friends. So his bicycle is the way to move from one place to another. Then you see on the left bottom, that's his favorite place to swim in summertime. In Amsterdam, the water is less polluted than it was before. So there's many places where you can swim nowadays. And my son, he goes with friends. It's really next to the central station. So this is an area where it's really attractive for him to swim. He loves water polo, so that's the sport he does. And even at COVID time, they had to swim in the middle of the winter outside with wetsuits on, but they kept going playing water polo because they couldn't do this inside. And then on the bottom, you see his favorite square where he likes to play soccer. It's also in the middle of the city center. You hardly can find it, but this square is really important for children just to play outside, to make it possible in the middle of the city to play there. So he loves to go there and play soccer there. And then on the top, you see him as an assistant trainer in skating, because there is this artificial sports club, and they try to already get young leaders in sports. They start with assisting, and then they become trainers at an age of 15. And I think this is a very important thing to do, because youngsters do like this. Then my daughter, she is 13 years old. What does an active city mean for her? For her, it means also going on her bicycles to school. And you see this bridge on the left. It's even a bicycle bridge. There's not cars going on there, so it's for bicycles only. And you see the picture of the skating was the day before yesterday. She started as an assistant trainer at a year of 13, and she loves it. Then the water polo she likes as well. You see this on the picture. And the Amstel, that's the main river in the city center of Amsterdam, you see them swimming there as well. So during summertime, there's many people swimming in the Amstel. So about active cities, this is important for my children and me. And of course my husband, he is 55 years old. And I think it's very logical where he is really fond of. And that's, of course, there's nothing else in his mind than soccer. But unfortunately, his knees are not that good anymore. He's still active in sports, but this is his favorite club, of course. Then I have a question to you, and also the audience online. I would like to ask you if you would stand up if you live in a city bigger than 50,000 inhabitants. So please stand up. Let's see also the people back home. I can't see them, but here everyone lives in a city bigger than 50,000 inhabitants. Thank you. Let's see stand up if you live in a bigger city than 20,000. That's everyone, because everyone was already standing up, so that's a pity. But stand up, please, if you are coming from a rural area. So did you make this change from rural to a city? There's only 2 people. Well, me, myself as well. I was grown up in a rural. Thank you very much. Thank to the audience. Hopefully you are standing up as well. And yeah, well, just one question. I would like to ask, stand up if you ever moved. I already asked that one, didn't I? Oh, sorry. Stand up, please, if you ever moved from a rural area to an urban area. That's more people. Well, yeah, that's more people in the room. So this is interesting, because there's numbers about this as well. And just for me to know, did you already do 30 minutes of physical activity today? If you did, please stand up. Yeah, we didn't reach it by walking all the way. Okay, the educational module. Active cities. I'm going to show you around. I'm combining it with Netherlands or examples from the Netherlands. So this is how we signed it up. There's 6 chapters in the module. And I'm going to take you through them. The state of play across Europe. Talking about urbanization, you see that more and more people are moving to urban areas. So I think it's quite shocking, or I just realized how much people are moving from just urban places to or rural places to urban places. And you see that it increases. At 2050, it's about 83.7%. So it's really a lot of people. Then, what's the role of sport in the process of urbanization? Of course, city planning is a really important. How do you organize when the city grows, when the population is growing? So what do you do as a policymaker within the city? Tourism does mean a lot for like active cities as well, within sports. The social cohesion, what sports and physical activity, and especially sports, can bring to the people, that's important. Research and innovation. So if you don't do research, if you don't try new things, then you don't know. For example, the urban place, the urban sport place I was showing, it needs, they try to do this innovation, but they need also to do research to know if it's worth it, if it really becomes a popular place to go to. And then, of course, the active and healthy communities, which it brings to the people who live in the city. The significance of the city center, the opportunities and challenges. Of course, there is many challenges for the local organization to organize this whole thing. What do they do? How many square meters do they know? Do they have to create to make the sports or the living in a city attractive? So what do they have to organize? What opportunities do they have to bring? It's about infrastructures, it's about systems, strategy, budget, outreach. So there's many going on. Sustainability. How often do you have to renovate places? And maybe give it a green approach. Like you see also in school, the school squares, they become greener because it's more attractive for children out of research. So how do you deal with all kinds of research innovation within a city? What's the benefits? What could be the benefits of an active city? Well, of course, because of the more people getting less active, it's really important to get knowledge of the healthiness of being active. So the sedentary behavior, which is growing, everyone knows this in the room. But how do you try to promote physical activity? How do you promote people not taking the cars, but going for a walk during work or to work or whatever? So it's the knowledge, but it's also the behavior which is there, and that's a really big challenge. But it could be, if you really try to get a good policy on this and get good infrastructure, you might change this and make better walkability in the cities, cycle path. You see it on the next picture. Most of the pictures I show we used at the Congress we organized in The Hague. And you see here examples of the city where there's also created green places, attractive pathways to decide for walking. So this is really to show how cities in the Netherlands are trying to do this, to promote this. Then, of course, you have benefits of active cities through sports. It could be economic benefits. Business, there's more employability. There is, of course, with events, there's a lot of economics going around. It could be that, for example, if you organize a lot for youngsters, it could be safer. So there's less criminality because there's activity who get offered to particular groups of people. Of course, the environment, it's a challenge as well, but let's try to improve environment by sports, through sports as well. And then the health, I was already talking about, and social life. Of course, many people like to do sports because of their social lives, because they like to be with friends. Okay, the next chapter, sports for all in the city. Integrating physical activity in daily life. I think if we could, in active cities, if we could do steps forward on this, it would be really interesting to see what's happening. And then there's leisure time, there's home time. How do you go to do the groceries or to do your shopping? What sort of transportation do you do? How much attractive is it still to go, for example, by car into the city? Well, in Amsterdam city, it costs about €7 an hour to park your car in the city center. So they try to make it less and less attractive. But also, sitting all day at work or at school, how can you promote activities during school days or right after schools? So again, you see some pictures showing how you could do, like the lunch walking thing at workplaces. In the Netherlands, you see still a lot of children walking to schools, but this is a picture of England. They even organize school buses walking to stimulate walking for children to school. And then, of course, how do you develop your working place? Are you sitting all day, or can you stand up? Do you have high or lower desks? So what opportunities are there? And again, the very traditional way of getting around in the Netherlands, even the mothers, 2 children on a bike, even 4 sometimes, you just do your things on the bike with the children. And you can do the grocery also on a bike, which is special with a big thing in front of it. But that makes it possible to not take the car. So creating an active city, there's 5 key success areas. These are the 5, but I will go through them. The knowledge of and awareness. So we have to know what's going on. We have to know the rates. What does research say? How do people behave? So what factors of changes of behaviors could we reach? How could we use motivation of people? And this is about decision makers, policy makers who have influence on this, who can think of this, who can try to create different kinds of offers or effects. But you need the knowledge to create afterwards. And you have to evaluate, but this comes later. So the sport organizations, stakeholders, try to involve the different partners who have a lot of knowledge about what's going on. The knowledge about the physical activity guidelines. This woman, she showed it in her presentation in The Hague. And like the national guidelines, that's 57, but like Zuider Park was also an area in The Hague where the numbers are different. So as long as you don't know these numbers of guidelines, for example, in the sport monitor, which says how many people join still the organized sport clubs, if you don't know these numbers, you don't know what to do. So it's really important to have this research, this knowledge about what's going on in your own city. Then you can't do it by yourself. The sports sector can't do it by themselves. They really need other sectors to become stronger. So connecting to the health sector, to create more budget as well, to organize things differently. So there's urban planning where you can connect with. There's sport, there's health. So as long as you try to think cross-sectoral on a city level, then you can make progress, because you're not the only sector who has problems or who needs to have the advantages of sports and physical activity. So the cooperation between local stakeholders at different levels, but also like the professionals who know what's going on in the field, involve them to create new things in the city. Then, of course, programs and events, really important for the cities on a tourism level, on an economic level, but also for the people themselves. I heard from a lot of people, from a professional, they organized a mud run every year, and just trying or training for an event could be a very good motivation for people to start doing sports or to continue doing sports. And it brings you to an event, and the event a city really could use in a positive way. So and try to do this sustainable, because I think in the Netherlands this is still quite a challenge. So you see here some activities, like all the older people, trying to involve them outside. There is this training place in the city of Rotterdam. It was presented, and you see them really happy in the morning, doing sports together. But think of different groups, and like the marathon in the city of Rotterdam, a really popular event, and then the beautiful skyline. So there is also the promotion of the city itself as well, of course. Then again, this one. So yeah, use the events for grassroots sports as well. So not only an event, but try to connect to the sports for all people and for everyone, not only the elite people. That's really important as well, to use maybe events for sports for all. So spaces and places. It's important for an active city to think of how are we going to organize. It is really difficult, and it has to do with sports, accommodation, activities, parks, traffic. How safe is it to get to a place, especially young children? How easy can they get access to the different places? Are there cycle and walking tracks just to get more people active? Is it easy to enter those places? The accessibility is a really important thing, especially for the neighborhoods where there's problems, because in that kind of neighborhood there's not a lot of trust in safety. So for parents who want their children maybe to play more outside, and for girls, it's very important that it's safe. So think of this when spaces and places are created. Then the environmental solution, encouraging physical activity. Yeah, of course, you have different challenges to approach, but think what do you need to do to encourage people to use places and spaces? And the really small places are not that much attractive. We saw this in The Hague as well, like the bigger place was the most attractive one. So, and then just a simple thing, why not promoting people to use the stairs? Like in most of the hotels, also the hotel we are in, when I had to go to the third floor, I hardly could find the stairs, and it's dark over there, so it's not very attractive to take the stairs, but that's just an example. So how does an active, friendly environment look like? This is what we were talking about in The Hague. Well, I don't think this is the way. This was Rotterdam. I don't know if you remember that they showed this picture. Rotterdam used to be like this. Like cars were really important. So they have a big challenge to create more attractiveness to people to decide on walking and cycling. So this is how it used to be. And still they have a challenge but it was created after the World War for making it attractive for cars, and now it's the opposite. And then Sanne, she brought us with us in the successful playgrounds, and this is about how is it easy to reach the successful elements. She told us out of research also how accessible is it. It has to be easy accessible. The combination of sports, playing and meeting, that was one of the good elements as well. I don't know if you remember when we were in the park, like parents sitting, children playing. Organized activities, so not only the hardware, not only the materials or the playgrounds themselves, but organized activities. Organize a program for different target groups. This is really necessary to be more successful. Then the supervision, so to make it safer for people. You need, and supervision could also making it attractive for people to sit down, so adults are coming and maybe parents are coming and are sitting down and showing and watching their children. So it could be a different way. Clean, very important thing. If it's not clean, then people throw their rubbish there as well. So try to keep it clean. And then the safetiness again. And not to forget the technology. She was mentioning in this as well, because this is, it started already, but we can do a lot with the innovation, the technology. And I want to mention it because it's, I think there's a lot in the future, a lot initiatives in technology who could promote physical activity and sports as well. Then finally, monitoring and evaluation. That's a continuous process, because once you have created something, you have to know if it works. Like the cycle path in Amsterdam I started with. If you don't know how many cyclists there are, then you don't know if it's a success or not. Or, for example, you saw this on the first picture. If the cycle path is there, you need to have the footpath there, because otherwise it's not safe. And where are the cars, for example? So you have to monitor, to evaluate continuously to know if it's good or to maybe improve it somehow. And the midterm, the long term, of course, you have to do it frequently. And it's important to learn from what you try to do. Then collecting data, decide about improvement. Sometimes you only need a small improvement, like organizing an activity on a particular playground or a place to make it more attractive. But you need to ask people, you need to know from professionals how things are working. So keep doing research on this. And then the strategies and the measures you use to improve the impacts and the interventions, what you created in an active city. So just really short, this is what we did in the Netherlands. And I would like to, also the people who are online, I would like to encourage you to use the modules and to make your own national story out of this. And we did this in the Netherlands in April. We had this active design, and I show you really quickly. The first day we went in groups, we went into town, and there is this scan, and there's a module, I show you just in a few seconds. And we were just having a look at how places were developed, and we scored the places, and we discussed about it with each other. And this gives an idea about what's going on and what's the quality of a particular place. So then the day after, we had different speakers, like Peter van Veen, the director sports of the city of The Hague. We had Michael Seniers from the policy, the European policy. We had Wendelin van Lier. She was talking about the city of Rotterdam getting a global active city. So this is how you could, as a country, could organize a national meeting using the educational modules. This is the scan. I really love it because everything is in this to do monitoring or to see what you need or what you haven't thought of, just some kind of checklist you can use. I show it quickly, but you probably can get it later. This is the scan out of this module, what you can use in your country. That's what we did at the meeting we organized. Then it was a combination with the Invictus Games, so that was really interesting because we could visit the different sports which were going on. We had Sanne de Vries of the University of Applied Science in The Hague. She was presenting also about how to create a friendly environment for playing and becoming more active. We had conclusions. We had again the Invictus Games. And to finalize, I would like to, I show really 1 minute of the movie. The movie takes longer, but if you like to see the whole movie of this meeting, you can do it yourself. It takes 11 minutes, but we show 1 minute, and I would like to ask the technician to do this, because that's also the end of my presentation. But there's a 1 minute part of the film of the meeting we organized. Yeah, they have to change the connection between my laptop and the room, and yesterday it went fluently, so I'm really positive about it. And otherwise you can have a look at it yourself. It will take a few seconds. Sorry? You are being watched online. Great. I'm happy to hear. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. We tested yesterday. So yeah, if there is if someone likes to add something or ask a question, we can use the time for that. People from the online visitors, maybe you can send your question by WhatsApp to one of us in the room. Yeah, it comes there. Yeah, it could be it. Yeah. I think, well, I would like to ask oh, it's almost there.
Good morning and welcome everyone. On behalf of the Europe in Action project, which is an Erasmus Plus project, what we are running since 2 years now, so it's the 30th now. And welcome at the Sport Campus, Zuiderpark in The Hague. In our project group, we have partners and they are here as well, so hopefully you can meet each other. It's partners from Slovenia, Poland, Portugal, Turkey, and from Tafisa, an international organization.
And today we focus on the subject of active cities. And that is one of the 13 themes we have selected together as important themes for the Sport for All movement. And more people live in urban areas. Today we will learn how many. And do we ensure that public space continues to be sufficiently inviting for sport and for exercise?
Today we are looking at the questions related with active development and active regional development that Michael will speak a little bit after under the perspective of the European Commission and what is going on at that level. We have, of course, to take a look on the several 5 or 6 dimensions that we want to, let's say, put it here to reflection to all of you. We need to include the three setting or segments of the population when identifying the questions about knowledge and awareness. We need to put inside the leaders and the...
Yeah, so if you want to see more about this whole event we organized, please have a look yourself, and thank you for your attention, and good luck with your creating your active cities within your countries.
Thank you, Doreen, for introducing the Active Cities educational module. And indeed, you are all welcome to check the video. It is on the Tafisa YouTube channel. And if you want to learn more, get in touch with us, especially if you want to also host an Active City module or a different module in your own organization or country. Now we will have a lunch break. So I'm asking everyone to please return to the room at 2 p.m. Portuguese time for those of you who are online and maybe not in the same time zone. So we will return in around 1 hour, 20 minutes. Thank you.
Inserido na celebração da 8ª edição da Semana Europeia do Desporto, e considerando que este ano celebramos o Ano Europeu da Juventude, o Instituto Português do Desporto e Juventude desafiou os jovens a participar na iniciativa Youth Sport Labs, inspirados nos Youth Labs da Comissão Europeia. Estes decorreram em cada uma das 5 regiões continentais e nos 2 arquipélagos, no dia 23 de setembro, primeiro dia da Semana Europeia do Desporto 2022. O Youth Sport Labs pretendeu reunir grupos de jovens de diferentes contextos sociais para debater temas relevantes para o setor desportivo com impacto social. Procurou encontrar uma matriz de entendimento sobre os temas selecionados, identificando conclusões para cada tema a debater com especialistas no 3º Fórum Nacional do Desporto para Todos, que aconteceu no dia 30 de setembro no encerramento da Semana Europeia do Desporto. Assim, foi debatida a área de desporto na natureza e sustentabilidade ambiental, nomeadamente o papel do desporto na conservação da natureza através de ações de voluntariado juvenil e a área de juventude e desporto, escola, universidade e fitness, destacando a prática de desporto nos seus vários aspectos. Estás pronto para participar na mudança? Contamos contigo na próxima edição.